I mean,
if a daughter goes to her father and says, I'm going to become a sex worker, or I'm a sex worker, and he doesn't make any effort to discourage that,
yes.
I think that is a failure to protect his daughter
yes.
from the world, and that is a natural instinct that every father should have.
I think your socioeconomic status is probably going to be more likely to determine whether or not your children are going to be.
So
I was just saying, I don't think it's all about values. I think what's going to end up being a more likely thing that determines it is whether or not, like, what your socioeconomic background is, because I don't think most sex workers have gone to college. I don't think they have higher education. They probably are less likely to have even graduated high school. And that is all stuff that's, like, associated with people who are of, like, more limited means. You know?
Is
the
it
wealthier
more,
you are,
is it more
the less
tempting?
likely it
Is it more tempting to turn to crime and to sex work if you are in a financially difficult position? I suppose.
Not just that,
but there are plenty of people who are in just as bad or worse financial positions that don't turn to crime and don't turn to sex work.
Well, what you just said really flies in the face of this, like, narrative that sex work is empowering, because you're recognizing
I never
that
said
in the
sex
majority
work was empowering. I never said sex work was
I'm not
empowering.
saying it's your narrative. I'm just saying there is a general narrative in the discourse about sex work that it is empowering for the women who do it. But you're recognizing that the majority of the time, those sex workers are turning to it out of desperation, not because it makes them happy.
I guess the phrase, like, turning to it is, like, loaded. I'm just saying, it's, like, just very neutrally, I think it's a lot more likely that if you're raised in an environment, like a socioeconomic environment, that you have, like, less money. If you're raised in poverty, you're probably not going to have higher education. That's already going to make you more likely to do it. If you have more wealth in your family, you're probably going to get an education. You're probably going to have a white collar job. And you're way less likely to do sex work. I think it's going to have way less to do with, like, the personal values that are instilled. Like, there are examples of it, like Lawrence Fishburne, right? His daughter is a star, and, like, he just, like, I think he disowned her. It's very, very, like,
Based.
Rare. Yeah.
Based.
Yeah, is that what you would do if like you got married and your daughter became a porn star against, like, everything that you told her, went against all of your values?
So
you would
you're
disown your
admitting
daughter?
that being a sex worker is going down the wrong path, basically, as college being the right path?
She wants to get a clip.
Would you disown
if she
your
was
daughter?
a prostitute? If my daughter was a prostitute?
If your daughter grew up to be a porn star or a prostitute, would you? No, a porn star. If your daughter grew up to be a porn star, would you disown her?
I would.
Yes.
Okay. You would disown your daughter for being a porn star?
Would you disown your daughter for being a porn star?
So when we say disown, though, are we saying, like, never talk to her again?
Yes.
He completely shunned her. He doesn't speak about her. Like, when he's been asked in interviews, he's like, he doesn't even talk about her.
So
I would make fuck. Okay, hold on.
Grid One Motorsports donated $100. SW and Pron is the failure of the family and brings shame. Prom has horrible effects on men and their relationships and can and does cause relationship problems, including divorce. Stop it. Get some help. Do better. Be a better human.
Yo, Grid One, thank you, man. Appreciate it. So, to answer your question, first off, I would make as vigorous an attempt as possible, one, to raise her correctly so that she would not even consider that as an option. If she was considering it, I would, again, make as vigorous and strong a case against it as possible. If she got into it, I would continue making as vigorous and strong a case for her to stop. If she continued, then yes, it would be so disappointing to me that I would probably disown my daughter.
That's crazy.
That's
crazy to me, because if you love, that's unconditional love. You have kids, you're supposed to love them unconditionally.
You should always be there for them. Whether if your kids turned to, like, had a drug addiction, right? Would you, like? I don't think it would be right to disown your child.
That's nasty personality.
It would sort of be the same thing. I would. See,
I mean,
now
we think sex work is disgusting, but
just you said you turn your back on your kids.
It's disgusting to turn your back on it's disgusting for me that you're willing to turn your back on your own offspring. That's disgusting to me. So say whatever you want to be disgusting on
for valid reason. Let me ask you a question. There's no circumstances under which you would not turn on your children, or perhaps, like, your parents. What if they committed some heinous fucking crime?
We're talking about sex
What if
work.
they abused you?
If my parents abused me,
would that be or your
for
children
your own
abused
safety, you would have to separate yourselves from them. But if my parents wanted to come to me and apologize for something like that, and then demonstrated through their actions that they never would do that again,
but you acknowledge,
then I would never cut them off out of my life
you do
entirely.
acknowledge there are some circumstances your child could do some act in which you would distance yourself from them or disown them. You acknowledge that, right?
I know, but I'm speaking in the sense of like sex work right now.
Yeah, you said abuse, and we're just talking about sex work.
I don't want to.
Yes,
Your daughter becoming a porn star would be. You would never speak to her again. You would shun her. You would disown her.
That's how thoroughly disappointed I would be in my daughter if she was involved in sex work.
But
yes.
For
I
you
think
to
as her father, I think you're supposed to be there for her even through like the roughest points of her
because
life.
that could
Those
be
are
the roughest
choices.
point of
She is
her life.
making a choice
Yes,
to
and
do
you're
that.
making the choice to disown her. And I'm saying I don't think
That's
that
totally
would be
different.
What is
I don't
disowning
think-
exactly?
Disowning means that like
You just no longer like
you no longer speak to them. You shun them. You don't.
Here,
You don't.
I want to
talk
ask
about
the
them.
chat. I'm just curious about the chat. Like, do you guys agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Agree with me? Disagree? 1, if you agree with me. 2, if you disagree with me. I'm just curious because, hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it would be wrong to disown your daughter if she was.
Is she saying
gotta do
mean
a poll.
things to you, like constantly? Like if
Personally-
someone
No, it's
was
not.
saying mean
Personally,
things to
I
you,
would not disown my daughter, but I think you guys are thinking of love and unconditional love as unconditional acceptance of their choices, and that's not the same thing.
I don't
We
think
accept that they want to
acceptance.
turn
I
around
think that
and
like
change.
that's why I
But
did
as long
the
as they
ex-
don't change, there's no.
That's why
Sorry.
I did the example of like if your son struggled with like substance abuse, right? Was continually harming themselves by being addicted to like heroin or something like that. I don't think that by you not disowning them is you saying, oh, well, I'm happy the fact that you have a substance abuse. I think you're being there to support them as their father.
But you
or,
guys
like,
are saying it's
as
like
their
keep
parent.
lending them $20 every time they need it.
like
Literally.
when does it become enabling at some point? Like to
Yeah.
that's
You see what I mean?
Well said. Enabling. No,
I don't think,
I
like not
turning
disowning your
back
child
on
if
your
they
daughter-
do sex work
It's
is
not
you
disowning. Okay, let's say
supporting
it's
them.
not disowning.
Which they
It's
asked
just
about
cutting
disowning.
ties with. Okay, like the disowning. I don't know to what legal level. I don't
question-
know.
I
I
just
don't know.
think
Let me.
that's set up.
I would say that actually, for example, you see this when it comes to politics. Families like become what's the word for it?
like splintered.
Splintered over politics. So I think this is also a valid reason.
I think
under
that's
which,
pathetic, though. I
Over
think people who
inheritance,
like,
too.
if like you are not talking to your parents because they voted for Trump or Biden, I think that's fucking
No,
lame.
but I'm saying that's. I actually think that's perhaps even a lesser thing. Well, I mean, people have different values. I mean, I'm not trying to compare one to the other, but AB check. Thank you for the 20, man. Appreciate it.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what the.
I don't think
exact
any
term-
of us would disown a family member over politics.
Like my parents
Not
were
over
like
politics.
liberal.
I know people
and
do
I'm,
that.
like,
I think it's
conservative.
unfortunate.
We're
I
fine.
think it's like a stupid thing. I think like if you disown your family over political disagreements, barring like extreme fundamentalist shit, I think you would come to regret that. And like when they die on their deathbed, I think that you'd see like just how stupid and inconsequential it was to like separate yourself from your parents.
It's
over
funny
that.
because I hear a lot of kids that are like liberal, progressive, disown their Trump supporter parents.
Yeah, that's cringe. If
so
they're doing
bigoted
that,
parents,
that's fucked
yeah.
up. That's
What's
like
up,
so
Nick?
stupid to me.
Did you read that super chat? I just don't know if it's going to turn to TOSE.
Place change or make a job position. I'll get to that. Yeah, I think.
So are you saying progressive kids should accept conservatives older
In their-
than them, their parents, people around them?
Yeah, I don't
Yes.
think that you should
we've
be
been on
shunning
this
your
for so long.
parents or family just because they voted for Trump. That's insane.
Thank you.
Or vice versa. If you're a Trump supporting family and you disown your kid because they support Biden, that's insane.
Here, Abby, right? It's Abby.
Abigail, but yeah,
Abigail, if your daughter, you want to have kids, right?
I do.
If your daughter, like, would you disown your daughter?
I couldn't disown my daughter. No, I mean, if my daughter was doing something that I thought was damaging and she kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it, I would realize that the way that I'm going about trying to get her away from that is wrong. I would try to evaluate and determine a better way of going about it. But no, I couldn't just cut ties with my child. Same if like my son was doing something like
Dealing.
Yeah, using drugs or drug dealing, and I thought it was wrong. No matter the amount of disappointment I would feel, that's my son. I cannot turn my back on him.
I think you would
I will
probably-
try
You
to,
should
I will
talk to
try
them.
Go ahead,
to
Mary.
keep them from doing it, and if what I'm doing isn't working, like I said, I would change what I'm doing. And if I did have to cut ties, it wouldn't feel good. It's not what I want to do. But like, let's say if my child wanted nothing to do with me because they felt that I was like pushing my beliefs onto them and I was wrong and they wanted nothing to do with me, I would wait for them to come back, and I would pray and I would hope that they would. But no, I would never be the one to cut off ties with my child. I would not disown my child.
I feel like I think you're going to be more willing to or more likely to actually entrench the fact that she would be like in that industry if you disown them. I think the thing that would, if you were like really dead set on like getting your daughter out of being like in the sex industry or porn stars, I don't think disowning them at that moment is going to be the thing that makes them like realize like, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. If anything, they'll be like, my family fucking abandoned me, fuck them, I'm going to like do this for sure.
Sorry,
I think if you show love and vulnerability and say like, we're here anytime for you, I don't support it.
What does disowning mean actually?
Yeah, I know that's. Yeah.
We determined cut ties. That's what we said.
Cut ties, shunning, don't speak to them.
Disowning means like you're my mom, and I'm just gonna never talk to you again.
You're no
longer my mom.
Please move the mic over and speak into it.
Sorry.
Yeah, like if your mom looked at you and was like, "You're not my daughter anymore. I'm never gonna speak to you again. Don't tell people that you're my child. Like, I'm not gonna speak about you." You basically pretending.
Sign anything.
No, it's not divorce. You just never speak to them again.
You can do that though.
It's possibly.
I think that the kids can.
It's probably easy.
Yeah, you
to
can
Look,
at 13.
I've already stated that I would attempt to raise her so that just wouldn't even be a possibility to begin with. But of course, despite parents' best efforts, kids still fuck up or they get involved in these things. So whatever, I would try to dissuade her if she was, again, considering going into it. I would try to convince her not to. If she got into it, I would make another good faith effort to stop her from doing it.
Like an intervention.
Yeah, I would make effort. So it wouldn't just be like an instant drop, immediate disown.
But at some point it would.
Yes, I think eventually, like if, I mean, it's depending on what, right? Obviously, there's degrees and severity to it. But if she was a prostitute, for example, I mean, it's going to be very hard for me to...
Well, if she reached out to you again and said, "I've put that behind me. I no longer want to do
there
this."
Can be reconciliation. There can be
if there's
reconciliation.
a possibility for
Too personal,
reconciliation, that's not the same thing as disowning.